Oh, make me feel great, grateful. Well, my child brought unity, love, and peace. You know, for a whole lot of, not just here local, it's a global, nationwide. I want to thank everybody, the media, you know, the community, the law enforcement, you know, everybody in it, detectives, investigators, everybody for helping out.
And tonight, when you were hearing the beautiful things people were saying about your daughter, what does that make you feel about how your daughter affected people? That's the opinion that they hold her in.
Oh, I feel great, grateful, you know. She brought unity, you know. Hope a lot of people, you know, she brought, for me it's a big heartbroken, you know, she brought a lot of unity. And I hope it helps a lot of people, you know, to talk, express what they feel, you know. There's always help, you know.
And something that you mentioned when you had expressions that you want people to understand, they have an opportunity to impact someone's life. And you never know, someone might be going through something, but just to say something.
Yes, just to say something.
Gratitude is not the emotion most people expect to hear from a parent standing before cameras during a tragedy. Yet that is the word Camila Mendoza's father chose. Grateful, not angry, not demanding answers, not assigning blame. He thanked the community, law enforcement, investigators, and even strangers who had shown up to support his family. He spoke about unity, about love, and about the way his daughter brought people together, not only locally, but across the country. When asked how it felt to hear people speak so lovingly about his daughter, his response was simple and devastating at the same time. He said it made him feel grateful. Grateful that his child's life had meaning beyond her immediate family. Grateful that she inspired unity and hope. Even in heartbreak, he emphasized connection. And he urged people to speak up when they are struggling, to express what they feel, and to remember that help is always available. That moment set the tone for everything that followed. A father standing in grief, choosing compassion over speculation, choosing unity over anger. His words did not answer questions about what happened to his daughter. Instead, they reminded people of the value of life and the cost of silence. This matters because at the time those words were spoken, the search for 19-year-old Camila Mendoza had reached a critical turning point. Earlier that day, authorities in Bay County, Texas, confirmed that a body had been discovered near her home. Investigators were careful in their language. They did not immediately confirm the identity of the remains. They did not announce a cause of death. And they made one thing clear. It was too early to draw conclusions. That restraint matters. In true crime, moments like this are often rushed, speculated on, or distorted. This case demands the opposite approach. What is confirmed is limited. What remains unknown is significant. And the space between those two realities is where careful investigation must take place. Camila's father did not use his voice to fuel rumors or assign blame. Instead, he used it to encourage people to reach out, to trust parents, to speak honestly with friends and neighbors, and to recognize when someone may be struggling silently. His message was not about the manner of his daughter's death. It was about connection, awareness, and responsibility. This story matters not because of shock or spectacle, but because it reveals how quickly an ordinary life can become a nationwide search, and how easily facts can be buried beneath noise if restraint is not exercised. Before going further, it's important to say this clearly. This is not a story about speculation. It is a story about what is known, what is not yet known, and why that distinction matters. Before Camila Mendoza's name appeared in headlines, before press conferences and search crews, she was a 19-year-old young woman living at home with her family in Bay County, Texas. Verified information about her life paints a picture that is not unusual, not mysterious, and not marked by public warning signs. And that normalcy is precisely what made her disappearance so alarming. According to her family, Camila was close to her parents, especially her father, yet who later spoke publicly about the unconditional love they shared. She lived in a residential area near local businesses and open land, a setting that, prior to this case, had not been associated with danger or instability. There were no public reports of criminal involvement, no confirmed accounts of ongoing conflict, and no indication that she had severed ties with her family or community. Her daily routines were described as simple and consistent. On the morning she disappeared, her actions initially appeared ordinary. So ordinary, in fact, that they did not immediately raise alarm. That detail is critical. In many missing person cases, abrupt behavioral changes serve as early indicators of risk. In Camila's case, there were no such clear warning signs. What stood out most to those who knew her was her sense of connection. And her father would later describe her as someone who brought unity, someone who touched people's hearts. He spoke about her favorite colors, yellow, white, and green, which supporters wore in her honor as the search unfolded. Hundreds of people gathered, not because of notoriety, but because they felt connected to her story. This human context matters. True crime cases are often reduced to timelines and evidence. But Camila was not a mystery waiting to be solved. She was a daughter, a presence in her household, a young woman whose life followed a familiar rhythm. Understanding who she was before she vanished is essential. Not to speculate about what happened next, but to understand why her absence was immediately felt and could not be dismissed. The timeline of Camila Mendoza's disappearance begins on the morning of Christmas Eve, on a day typically associated with routine and anticipation rather than alarm. According to confirmed information, Camila was last seen leaving her home that morning. At the time, nothing about her departure appeared unusual. There were no reports of distress, no confirmed arguments, and no indication that she planned to be gone for an extended period. As the hours passed, concern began to grow. Camila did not return home as expected. Family members attempted to account for her whereabouts, initially assuming there might be a reasonable explanation: a delayed errand, a visit that lasted longer than planned. But as time passed without contact, those assumptions gave way to worry. Law enforcement was eventually notified, and Camila was officially reported missing. At that point, the case entered a different phase. What had begun as a family concern became a police matter, triggering investigative steps designed to establish last known movements and identify potential risk factors. Investigators worked to reconstruct Camila's final confirmed moments. Surveillance footage later became part of that effort, including video showing her near her home earlier that morning. Authorities were careful in how they described this footage. They did not suggest it showed a crime, nor did they imply that it explained what happened afterward. Instead, it served as a timestamp, a fixed point in an otherwise uncertain timeline. As the investigation progressed, search efforts expanded. Family members, friends, and community volunteers joined law enforcement in canvassing areas near her home, and the scale of the response reflected a growing understanding that Camila's disappearance was not following a typical pattern. Each passing hour without contact reduced the likelihood of a benign explanation. Critical questions remained unanswered. Where did Camila go after she was last seen? Did she meet someone? Did she change direction? Or did something interrupt her normal path? Investigators acknowledged these gaps openly, recognizing that the absence of information was itself significant. As days passed, the search intensified and drew regional and national attention. Camila's disappearance was no longer viewed as a short-term absence. It had become a critical missing person case, defined as much by uncertainty as by confirmed facts. As the search widened, multiple law enforcement agencies became involved, coordinating efforts with family members and volunteers. Investigators focused on areas consistent with Camila's known routines and last confirmed movements, while also accounting for nearby terrain that could obscure visibility or delay discovery. Search crews canvassed open fields, roadside areas, and properties within walking distance of her home. These decisions were not random. In missing person investigations, proximity often matters. Individuals who disappear without transportation are statistically more likely to be located closer to their last known location than initially assumed. At a certain point, investigators made a deliberate decision to return to areas that had already been searched. And officials later explained that environmental conditions, including tall grass and uneven ground, can obscure visibility even during organized searches. Revisiting locations is standard practice, not a sign of failure, but an acknowledgement of how easily critical details can be missed. It was during one of these follow-up searches that a body was discovered in an area not far from Camila's home. Authorities moved quickly to secure the scene and carefully controlled the information released to the public. They emphasized restraint, declining to immediately confirm identity or cause of death. What officials did confirm was limited but significant. The location of the discovery fell within the established search perimeter. The clothing observed was consistent with what Camila had last been seen wearing. Beyond that, an investigator's stress that forensic confirmation would be required before any identification could be made. This discovery marked a critical shift. What had been an active missing person search became, at least temporarily, a death investigation. That distinction matters. Different protocols apply. Different specialists become involved, and public updates often slow, not because information is being withheld, but because accuracy becomes paramount. As the investigation transitioned into its forensic phase, attention turned to the evidence authorities were willing to acknowledge publicly. Among those details was the confirmation that a firearm was found in the vicinity of the body. This information was shared cautiously and without elaboration. Importantly, law enforcement did not connect the presence of the firearm to a definitive conclusion. In real investigations, the discovery of an object near a body does not establish how or why it was used. That determination requires forensic testing, medical examination, and careful analysis, processes that cannot be rushed. Authorities also reiterated that consistency in clothing does not equal confirmation of identity. Visual similarities can guide investigations, but formal identification requires forensic verification. The role of the medical examiner became central at this stage, responsible for determining identity, cause, and manner of death through documented procedures. When asked whether foul play was suspected, officials responded carefully. Rather than eliminating or prioritizing scenarios publicly, they stated that the investigation remained ongoing and that conclusions would depend on verified findings. This restraint reflects standard investigative practice, particularly in cases with significant public attention. As forensic work continued, authorities defined the limits of what could be responsibly confirmed. Environmental conditions, time, and incomplete information can complicate determinations. The absence of immediate answers should not be interpreted as secrecy or indecision, but as procedure. What remains unknown is as important as what has been confirmed. Questions about Camila Mendoza's final movements, the sequence of events leading to the discovery, and the precise circumstances surrounding her death cannot yet be answered. These gaps are not investigative failures. They are the reality of forensic work. And in the midst of uncertainty, Camila's father returned to the public stage with a message that transcended the details of the case. He spoke again of unity, hope, and the responsibility people share to reach out to one another. He expressed gratitude for law enforcement and the community, framing the attention not as spectacle, but as evidence of the bonds his daughter inspired. He urged families and friends to speak up, to trust one another, and to offer support before tragedy strikes. His message serves as both a tribute and a warning, a reminder that silence can have consequences and connection can save lives. Camila Mendoza's story is now both a case and a caution. It is a reminder of the fragility of life, the importance of attentive community, and the dignity that must guide every discussion of crime. It calls on us to remember the person before the headline, to honor her memory with care, and to approach the unknown with patience, respect, and responsibility.